Hi, and welcome back to Therapy Get You Some. I'm so excited about today's guest because we get to keep talking about children in school. Today we have Dr. Dominique Lemi. Now you know I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. Hold up. Lemier. Lemier. Did I get it
God,
right?
you did. You
I
did
struggled,
well.
but I got it. Okay. Okay.
You did well.
All right, Dr. Dominique, and you gave me permission to go just with Dr. Dominique. So thank
Yes.
you. So I don't have to
Yes.
keep struggling. Y'all don't have to keep hearing me try. Dr.
Listen, we
Dominique,
build on strengths. We build on strengths.
good, good enough. My strength was your first name.
Right.
All right, just tell us about your credentials and who you are and your professional self.
Okay. Again, I am Dr. Dominique Lemier, and I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor. I have credentials I earned a Master of Arts degree from Xavier University, as well as my bachelor's
You
from Xavier XU. And then I went on ahead to Holy Cross and earned my doctorate. So I am a counselor educator now, supervisor and educator. So I also serve in many different capacities. I like to dub myself as the Christ Plus counseling therapist. That came about because a lot of times people of faith don't recognize that you can have therapy and you can have healing and counseling and still hold true to your Christian ideals. And so as a result, I started using the hashtag the Christ Plus counseling therapist. Not only that, I worked several years as a crisis counselor, as a trauma therapist, and now after working in some acute environments with high acuity uh, clients on different spectrums and challenging behaviors and working with individuals in ACTINs, assertive community treatment. Um, I took a step away and wound up in schools. And since then, I've been here and I've been loving it. And so I'm at a school right now. So if things get loud, that's because I'm at a school where kids get loud. So I'm a licensed professional counselor, supervisor, counselor educator, um, um, wife, mother, sister, daughter, friend, all of that. So bring a lot of different things to the table. And so I'm excited to be here. Thank you again for your invitation.
Thank you so much for taking time out your busy day. And I am impressed because I'm not going to disclose your age, but you told me your age and your resume and your age just means you have not wasted a minute of your life. I am impressed. I'm
Yeah.
impressed. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to push you, but all right. Tell us something on that we would not put on that bio. Their bio is impressive, but something that humanizes you, something real.
Yeah, I am a major foodie. I love to cook and I love to eat. I find cooking so therapeutic. So I'm like the gumbo girl. I would get there and stir roux and chop seasoning by hand. I find all those things therapeutic. But I also now after I cook these meals, somebody got to eat it. So I get there and um, uh, I could eat gumbo every day. I've been named the gumbo queen of my family. We had a cooking competition
All
and
right.
I won.
Dr. Dominique,
I
I'm
won.
coming for a bowl. Now, don't play. You know,
I listen because I
listen.
need volunteers when I make these big old pots, and my husband is saying, "Why are you making all of that? To give away."
Look no further. I'm coming get my bowl.
I got you. I'm gonna
And
make
I'll
sure
bring
you
my
get.
own Tupperware because I know how that is.
I'll make sure you get what you're looking for. But I love making gumbo. I love making red beans and rice. I love making jambalaya, those types of things. So
Okay, you just speaking to my
listen,
soul and my spirit. We gonna
right.
shift because otherwise we could talk about food. We gonna shift. All right. So I know you work in a school and you didn't mention it, but I also know you created a resource for
I
people who
did.
work in schools.
I
Talk
did.
about that.
Sure. So I thought we were going to say that to the end, but I can talk about that. So this is the Emotional Awareness and Management Journal that I developed this year. And this, while I developed it, y'all, with children in mind. So many adults have said, I could really use something like that. And as a result, not only do we have a kids version, we've developed a parent version, we developed an educator version. We developed a team version. So we're just developing based on the reception that we're getting in the community. And what this is a 16-week curriculum, and that individuals, before they start, they will, I'll open it up. They will scan a QR code so that they can take a pre-test. And after the 16 weeks, they scan a QR code at the ends and take the post test to measure where they started and where they ended after completing the curriculum. And so we have modules being built, but at the moment we have our resource. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Where focus
One of
skills.
the things I'm loving is the fact that you're not just doing it, but you're doing it in an evidence-based way. So
Yes,
that's,
yes.
and it's interactive with the QR code. So I'm super impressed with that. I'm
Yeah,
super impressed
because
with that.
we want to be able to say, listen, you invested in this because it's an investment. This isn't a $10 workbook.
Okay.
This is an investment, and we're starting off offering it. It's going to be available locally as well as on Amazon, but it's an investment. And so I'm glad you brought it up, because oftentimes we invest in a lot of things, but we are struggling with investing in health, mental health, and overall health outcomes, especially among the African American community, and especially with our children. We invest in Jordans, we invest in all type of other things, but we need to start learning to invest in the things that really matter, the things that's going to make a difference in how they grow up and how they learn to love themselves and how they treat themselves, how they see themselves, how they interact with each other, how they interact with themselves, how they interact with the world. And so I'm
Yeah.
passionate about this thing. So what it also does is it provides a feelings wheel, y'all. I don't know if you can see it. Provides a feelings wheel and a feelings list, because sometimes, oftentimes in my um practice, right? So they can look at the wheel, or they can look at the list and find whatever emotion that they're feeling
Hmm.
at the moment, to give a name for the emotion. Because oftentimes, people are like, I just feel some type of way. Well, what exactly
I
does
was
that
gonna,
mean?
yeah, I was gonna say that. Now, do you have to be a mental health professional to use the workbook, or the child could use it all by themselves? Do they need a?
It is clinical in nature, first and foremost.
Mhm.
So I would recommend the best use will probably be with the support of a mental health professional. However, if a parent wanted to invest in this for their child and ask the child to journal, because it has prompts for journaling. It
Mhm.
has prompts for a child to track the day of the week that they're journaling, the date that it is, the emotions that they're feeling, why they're feeling that
Mhm.
way, and what they can do to feel better, and a week in review. Parents can purchase this, but I believe if you're going to get the best bang and the best benefit, you probably would pair it with a mental health professional, with
Okay.
support from a mental health professional. But anyone can use this. And the reason why, y'all, I know it's colorful, it looks like something that a child would use, but I didn't label it as children, because so many adults that I kind of
And that's
introduced it to, they were like, I could use something like that. So
mhm.
I didn't label it as children, because adults have validated a need for them to use it, y'all. So I'm excited about it as well.
I'm excited to so you're selling it to me, and I'm sold. So, but I want to back up and maybe like just kind of explain what is social and emotional well-being.
Well, social and emotional well-being encompasses a plethora of things. But when I think about it, if I could just break it down in layman's terms, is how we get along with ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how we value ourselves, and how we value, interact, and behave with others as well. So I one of my favorite poems that I like to keep in mind is I think it's called I ain't got a pencil. That's what it's called.
Oh, I've heard that one. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
ain't got a pencil, right? And it's so powerful because Before going to school, the child is literally a child getting his sibling ready for school alone, but he had to wake himself and his sibling up. He had to dress himself and his sibling, and didn't have all the resources available. And so all of that, when we don't have the best circumstance,
Mhm.
sometimes even with the best circumstances, our whatever we may be experiencing can impact our mental, emotional health, right?
Mhm.
And as a result, we cannot be our best selves, regardless of the space. Sometimes we expect children to be robots. And God
Right.
did not design for us to be robots. We expect kids to come into school, sit down, be ready, blah, 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 blah. But there may be some things that we don't consider that the child may be experiencing, maybe thinking, maybe feeling that is impacting their ability to really show up academically
Mm.
that day for the lesson at hand. And sometimes those children may get kicked out the class, get demerits and all those things. But really and truly, if we address the social emotional aspect, then we could better prepare them for success in the school environment, in the home environments, and in a greater community at hand.
Right. And I recently went to was at a training where they were saying black and brown children, especially black males, are more likely to be pathologized for their emotions,
Yes.
meaning than they would be to be nurtured or comforted. So even in kindergarten, a black boy crying would more likely get him sent to the office than a hug.
Oh,
Do
yes.
you
We know
notice
that.
that? Or do you?
Yeah, we know that oftentimes Black boys in particular are 3 and 4 times more likely to be suspended for school infractions. And then they are more likely to be expelled, experience expulsion. Um, Black kids make up the majority of a lot of our alternative schools, where schools have put them out and say, hey, you can't come here anymore. You are not meeting our expectations, our criteria, so you need to go somewhere else. And really and truly, oftentimes, because of the stigma and because of the prejudice and because of the longstanding biases, even in an academic environment, we have developed this term, the pipeline to prison. Oftentimes, our schools are pipelines to prison because we don't have the correct resources and because we don't have the correct um, um, things in place to support the children and understand the children, because sometimes our affect, the way we emote, can be
Mhm.
misconstrued as something that it's not. And so we're working hard to dispel some myths. We're working hard to uncover some of these biases. But it
Mhm.
takes more than just the professionals. It takes the parents to be aware. It takes everybody to come together and for us to have a collaborative effort to start changing some of these things.
Right. When you were talking that poem about I don't have a pencil or I ain't got a pencil, that's the thing that makes me think about the fact that that child is getting in trouble for not having a pencil,
Yeah,
but had endured so much just to be there.
yeah.
And that's where we sometimes, like you said, as the adults need to pay more attention.
Yeah, there are so many social determinants to health, is what the
Mhm.
National Institute of Health calls it. Social determinants of health and well-being. We have, some kids that may not eat at night before they come to school, and so I don't. I just told y'all I'm a major foodie. I don't feel good when I don't eat.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I get hangry, so I understand
Right.
that. You're gonna get a different
Yeah.
emotion if something happened to my food.
Okay.
All right. So I just want to kind of like, I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask you as if I
Yes.
don't know the answer. Can you really teach my child how to be more socially appropriate? Like, what?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things I love the most about my job is that I do counseling with children and I do it in a way that they don't even realize we're doing counseling a lot of times. We practice skills that may be embedded in a game, and while they're learning new skills and they're learning new skills with other kids or by themselves, they don't realize that they're learning skills that's going to take them the non-cognitive skills. That's not the math, the not necessarily the science or the English, but it's the non-cognitive skills that's going to keep them in spaces when they get older. A person can accomplish a lot professionally. They can become an astronaut. They they can become and then use their cognitive abilities to
Mhm.
accomplish great things. But it's the non-cognitive skills such as socializing, appropriate socialization that keeps them in place.
Mhm.
Oftentimes when individuals get fired is because they might be disrespectful to their boss. They might prioritize whatever they prioritize
Mhm.
more than getting along well with others and things like that. So my goal is to teach those skills in the early intervention levels. So we may play a game like hot potato, right?
Okay.
If we playing we use the ball hot potato, and they're just thinking we're playing hot potato. But the premise of the game, when it stops on you, hot potato, whatever. When you get the ball and it stops on you, then you tell us something that makes you happy. Right.
Mhm.
And so they're communicating, they're thinking critically, they're able to learn how to express themselves well, they're learning how to take turns, they're learning how to show the respect to other people. And so all they think at the end of the day, all they think they're doing is playing hot potato.
You just inspired me. So I know you see me taking notes. Because again, that's one of the best things about speaking to colleagues is that we learn
Yeah,
from each other. And I was like, oh
yeah,
wait, I haven't played hot potato in a while. I forgot. Let me put down that one on my list, put that back in my
yes.
Rolodex. That
Yes, and sometimes we can find the children are so creative. Children don't have the same limitations and imagination that we have. So sometimes
Mhm.
the games that they may come in, because what I do is in schools, I want my sessions to be different than just a classroom experience. So I give them some time to just communicate with each other. They may want to tell each other the games that they've been playing online, or they may want to say what they did over the weekend, or I went skating, I went camping, or whatever they, chose to do. Or if they start talking about a game, they may get up and get a little antsy and want to start playing a game. Then, hey, we say, okay, we can play that game, but we're going to put a therapeutic spin on it so that
Mhm.
it is meaningful and they're getting something out of it. Most of the time, though, they're going to say, oh, we played a game, but
Right.
they don't recognize that they're practicing not these skills. That when we look at the data that shows cognitive skills versus non-cognitive skills, a lot of times individuals, adults, get fired from jobs, get let go from jobs, or
Mhm.
don't experience success because they don't have the non-cognitive skills readily available to be successful interacting with other people.
Right. Right. I
So
jokingly always tell my clients because I say you never even saw my transcript and you
uh,
trust me.
yeah, yeah,
Because of those like you said, those non-cognitive skills, I've shown you just in our interactions. I could, and I wasn't, I gotta be honest, but I could have been at the bottom of my class. You wouldn't know that.
yeah. You wouldn't.
You
You
wouldn't know
wouldn't.
that. You can see the degree on the wall, but you don't know if your doctor was, top of the class, bottom of the class, but you trust them because of the way they engage with you, or you don't trust
Yeah.
them because of the way they engage with you.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because you can have all the doctors or whatever, but oftentimes clients and patients are looking at doctor's bedside manner.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
they rate a doctor very well or very poorly based on their bedside manner. That non-cognitive thing that we're talking about. The doctor could be brilliant, top of the class,
Mm-hmm.
have a whole wall full of credentials, but if you are lacking in those bedside manners, at the end of the day, you're gonna have some poor evaluations that's
Right.
going to reflect poorly on you, and your institution is gonna have to decide, well, is this person an asset or a liability to us?
Right. So it sounds like you're saying it's essential that our
It's
children
essential.
get this information.
It is essential. It is at this point, I'm looking at life as I
Mm-hmm.
look at it as a life or a death issue. And the reason why I say that is because, and I'm gonna bring some research into it. When the National Institute of Health, the National Institute of Mental Health, the CDC, came out with some data earlier this year in April 2022. Is public information. You can look it up. Anyone who's interested, that demonstrated that post-pandemic, during the pandemic, we had such an increase in children in particular meeting criteria for clinical anxiety, meeting the criteria for clinical depression, meeting the criteria for social issues such as social isolation,
Hmm.
social avoidance, those types of things. We had never seen it to that level before. And so the statistic suggested that out of 1 in every 5 children currently meet criteria for some type of diagnosable mental health disorder. And the pandemic was challenging on a lot of adults who have a more developed mind, who have the
Hmm.
ability to go into their bag of tricks and get some type of coping skills that may help them. But guess what? As adults, we had to show up for work. So when we were working, what were the children doing?
Right, right. And I think we're going to see the effects of the pandemic for a
Yes,
much longer than we anticipated. And when you mention anxiety, at one point, anxiety we thought was minimum, or
right.
and now it is rivaling ADHD as far as the diagnosis in school. I think it's either equal or it might be
It's
more, slightly more. It's slightly more.
is climbing up the scale, and not only about anxiety, a lot of children are meeting clinical criteria for these disorders, but I want to spend some time talking about suicidal ideations as well.
I was going to ask you about that because
Yeah,
I recently heard, especially again in Black children, suicide is going up
yes,
completely for Black
absolutely.
Black male children, and that is concerning, like you said, life or death concerning to me.
Yeah, so that's why I say it's life or death, because in 2018, the Congressional Black Caucus published an article called Ring the Alarm, stating how there has been an upward trend in African American youth suicide, particularly amongst African American male youth. And so not only is there it's they rank it on a scale of suicidal behavior, where suicidal ideations is considered the suicidal behaviors, the planning, those types of things.
Hmm.
But not only the ideations and the planning, but what about the attempt? So there has been an increase
Hmm.
in suicidal behaviors such as ideations and planning and attempts and completions among African American youth, to the point where we have surpassed the number of attempts and completions of our white counterparts for the past several years, to where the National Institute of Health, National Institute of Mental Health is calling it a public health crisis. So
Hmm.
think about it like this: when the opioid epidemic was at its peak, the government started throwing money at this issue, trying to fix this issue because it was an impact in a certain
Hmm.
population of children more than others. So now we're in the space advocating, okay, this is what we saw with opioid epidemic. Now we're saying African American youth suicide is a crisis, and where is the support, the government support? What are going to be some of the solutions?
Right.
Where's the funding? Where where's the funding? Where's the
So,
money?
and I think that's one of the things that while we're waiting for those, we have
Yeah,
to help us
yes,
because
and we
we
have to
know
help.
it and we have to make sure everyone knows it, right? So
Yes,
you're saying 2018, the Black Caucus said ring the alarm. Has that trickled down to the person on the street knowing I need to watch my Black son and make sure he knows how to manage his emotions, make sure that he knows how to cope with life so that he does not join that statistic. And I think that's where we come in.
yeah,
We're on the ground.
yeah.
And
And I agree
we
with
can
you.
spread the
And
information.
I'm glad you brought up that point, because I would like to even mention that oftentimes, sometimes we may have a thought, oh, not my child, or not my.
Hmm.
You don't know if it's your child struggling with emotions that they may not understand, that they don't have a name for, that they
Hmm.
don't know how to cope with, if they don't have a name for it, if they don't understand it. So it may be your niece, nephew, child
Right.
go to church with, somebody may be struggling with it in their life. I had a conversation with a child maybe like 2 weeks ago, from she was being bullied at school, and she said, she considered suicide because she felt like it would just be easier. It definitely would end everything. And so we see an uptick in not only Black males, primarily Black males, but also Black females, in the suicidal ideations, the attempts, and the completions. And so we can't sit around and wait for the government to save us. We
Right.
have to be our our own advocates. We have to get the word out. We have to get the information. We got to get the tools. As I
Right.
said, this is an investment, right? And so we invest in the things that we find important. We invest in the Jordans, the Nikes, the whatever we're wearing, whatever we drive. If
Mhm.
we can invest in that, certainly we can invest in the health outcomes of our youth. And so I'm going to always speak about it
Mhm.
and provide resources to help address what I'm seeing, because this resource was actually developed out of my work with children. And so I started thinking, okay, what else could I be doing with the children? What do they need to know? What do they need to practice away from me? What can they do to start feeling better sooner than the entire school year? So while
Right.
we may
Right.
see improvement over the entire school year, what if we could chop that down to half the school year or
Mhm.
2, 3 months? Change occurs over time, so it's not an overnight thing.
Right. But you say 16 weeks, that's impressive.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
impressive. In
yeah,
16 weeks that you could make enough of a change that you're going to be on the well spec portion of the
yeah.
spectrum, right?
And that is the hope. And if 16 weeks isn't enough, then we can invest
Mhm.
again and keep going at it, because we have to make the investment in the things that count and the things that matter, the things
Right.
that's gonna help heal. And so every child is different and every individual is different. So what
Mhm.
one person may get in 8 weeks, another person may take 16 weeks, another person may take a few years, depending on where they are. And we want to give grace to everyone. But in the
Mhm.
meantime, providing those necessary skills, the necessary support, the necessary resources available to start seeing a positive change. Because if we don't start addressing it, I'm afraid these statistics will continue to increase.
Have you
And
noticed the support of schools for this type of stuff? Because I know, like we're mental health professionals. You sold me immediately just with the cover. And I think parents are going to be on board, right? Because they want their, do you find that administration is really understanding the need of social and emotional learning within the school?
I'm going to say, I think there's a need that is recognized and acknowledged.
Oh, good.
However, it may not be a priority in every space.
Okay.
Um, to be fair, schools are inundated with
Mhm.
we got to prepare from day one. We got to prepare for LEAP. We got to prepare for all these standardized tests. We have to make sure that we're meeting these types of grade level expectations. So they have a lot to contend with. And so there are some schools that prioritize mental health, that have mental health professionals in their building several times a week. And there are some that don't have any. And I guess they do it the best that they can.
Mhm.
But my goal is always to speak to the administration and say what it is I'm seeing, what is the need.
Mhm.
And parents, I want to talk to parents. If you're watching, y'all can advocate for what you feel like your kids need in the school, because without the advocacy, then oftentimes the schools won't know what you consider necessary, what you consider important, and what you are choosing to prioritize. So if you prioritize it, then the school may have to come around and say, if they're not
Mhm.
prioritizing it, hey, this is something that keeps coming up. Maybe we need to look into this. So schools are, I think it depends on the school. I think it depends on the charter system. I just think it depends on several things.
But I'm
Oh,
excited that they're even acknowledging it because the stages of
yeah,
change,
yeah,
the fact that you're aware of a problem is a part of this change. And I
yeah,
would say, I've been doing this a long time. I would say 10 years ago, they were not as aware
yeah.
that it was a
It's-
problem.
And
We yeah,
I'm
we were
listening.
there by law, not necessarily by invitation.
Yeah, well, I must say, I am grateful that a lot of conversations that I've had over the past few years, one of the most encouraging and shocking conversations that I had was with a group of African American rural pastors who
Mm,
said, "We need y'all in our community. We teach the Bible, that's our expertise. But as far as getting into the mind of a person, we
mm,
need y'all, and we are open to more clinicians coming to the community, but not coming in to necessarily to come in with empathy, to come
mhm,
in with a listening ear, and to let the people talk. And so if they feel supported, then they're going to want more services. And so I was blown away that that was the overwhelming response of several African American pastors. I did this for my dissertation, and my
Oh,
hypothesis was proven wrong.
oh,
And pleasantly proven wrong, because I hypothesized that African American pastors who serve in rural communities are not open to mental health services. And they're like, almost every single one of
oh,
them,
that is
overwhelming
awesome.
majority, said that they need more clinicians, and especially more clinicians of color, or
Hmm.
at least culturally informed uh, clinicians to come into the communities and provide services, because they recognize that there's a need as well. They talked about Katrina, they talked about COVID, they talked about how they see that, some of the things that prayer would we just used to do, that's
Right.
helpful too, but maybe there needs to be some additional support. And they want to trust mental health professionals. And they say, in order for us to trust you, you got to come in with empathy. You got to let the people tell their story, and you
Hmm.
just gotta be authentic in a therapeutic
Hmm.
relationship. Well, hey y'all, that's the premise of
That's what
the
we do.
field anyway. That's just what we do. So all these pastors are saying, listen, I'll invite you into my congregation, refer some folks to you. I just want you to be real with them. I just
Hmm.
want you to be real. And I was blown away. I was blown away and
And
shocked.
what you're saying is that's another avenue we can affect our children is through church and through
Yeah,
communities. So if they're not getting this social and emotional learning in the school for whatever reason, budgetary or lack of support, we have other places so they don't have to go without.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it was such it did my heart some good. And I mean, I even my dissertation committee, all of my professors were astonished
Hmm.
that this was the response, because for a long time African Americans did not believe in counseling. We still have some of that stigma in the community, and we're working to dispel that as well, to make it more palatable. I think some people do a great job. Like, I love Charlemagne the guy, the way he always talks about,
Hmm.
yeah, in my therapy session, now when I was a counselor, and so it provides a perspective that Black people go to counseling.
Right.
It's beneficial to Black people, but Black men go to counseling as well. And so those are the populations that have struggled for the longest time accepting some type of help. And so, yeah, it's the acceptance is growing. We're not 100% sold
Mhm.
oftentimes, because when I'm talking to parents, they're not always sold, but that's okay. We're making progress, is what I feel.
I think that the selling point is going to be more of the education because a lot of times they're not, when anybody's not sold on it, it's really lack of knowledge of what we do. And I
Yeah.
think having more Black therapists is
Yes.
essential for mental health to become more palatable to Black people. Because when
Yeah.
they see you, they know, like you represent exactly what they're hoping, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're socially and emotionally well, and so you're going to display that, you're going to exude that, and you're going to be, they can see themselves in you. So it's not like
Yeah.
when they see it someone else. So I think that part that's wonderful that Dr. Dominique is at a school. You know what I mean?
At more than
Because
one school.
at
Yeah.
more than one school, right?
Yes.
Because then children, not only are they benefiting, they're benefiting from you have attained the terminal degree, the highest degree.
Yes.
Not often do we see ourselves getting the best services,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they're getting excellent services, evidence-based services
Yes.
provided in the school at no cost.
At no cost. And so that's one of the
That's an
biggest
easy
things,
sell.
oftentimes people, and I keep saying about an investment, for therapeutic services, most of the time your insurance is going to cover it. Your insurance is going to cover it, whether it's private insurance, Medicaid, or some individuals take sliding scales. So there's not a there shouldn't be a financial barrier.
Hmm.
At one time, Black people couldn't afford counseling. We didn't have insurance. We just went, we work, and we
Right,
could not talk about our emotions because we're good with that have done. We had to
right.
work anyway. We had to work in the fields, or we had to work in a factory, and we had to work. But now we're getting to the point where we realize, I was watching a TikTok where the lady was saying, "Sis is tired.
Hmm.
We're tired of being the superwoman that we've been for generations, and we've been taught by
Right.
people who could not express authentic emotions because overall, they just had to work and they had to plow through, and They didn't have the space, but now we have
Hmm.
the space and we need to invest in the resources to become healthier, to become better, still resilient, but giving ourselves self space to say, I need healing. I need to
Right.
get better. I need to get better coping skills so that my children don't have to heal from being parented by me.
Look, you said my thoughts. It's almost like you were in my head because I was actually thinking what we want to do now that we have, and I call it a luxury, but now we have the luxury to think about other things. If
Yes.
we want to create children that don't need counseling, I want to work my way out of a job, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's the
want to
goal.
create an environment that my children don't need to go to counseling and therapy
Yes.
because they've received all the tools to navigate life as youth
Yes, early on.
early on.
Early intervention is always key, and mostly every arena when we find cancer in a body. Well, if we find it early, early detection is key, right? And they
Hmm.
could provide as many interventions and throw all type of things. But if we don't catch it until stage 4,
Right.
well, life is our chances of healing and becoming our best selves from it are probably decreased.
Hmm.
So early intervention is key. I'm always grateful for the parents who are saying, okay, we've been at it for a while. My child is 5 or 6,
Hmm.
and these behaviors are continuing. Can you work with them? And I'm like, absolutely. And again, the kid will come into counseling and just think we're playing a game or whatever. But
Hmm.
eventually, we see behaviors improving and changing. Those desired behaviors are being implemented more than the undesirable, and the child can talk it
Right.
out. Now, sometimes they may have a relapse in their behavior. I can recall one kid I was working with, and the principal asked her, what about your coping skills? I didn't want to take deep breaths.
But the fact that she knew it
Yeah.
and consciously made a choice to say, you know what, I want to let my emotions run me for a
Yes.
minute.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's fine. I love it. I
Right.
love it
And
because she
so,
knew that when she needed it,
yes,
she knew how to
yes.
calm down.
So she had a toolbox, and but she
Hmm.
refused in that moment to use it. And heck, I mean, as an adult, sometimes I refuse to use my toolbox.
Right.
I said, I was telling someone earlier this week, I said, man, my grandma died earlier this year, and we were foodies together. We would cook and eat together. And so since then, I've been coping with food, and now my clothes are tighter. So clearly, this
Hmm.
coping isn't positive. I'm going the
Right.
wrong way, but it makes me feel better, right, in the moment.
Hmm.
But if I, who am teaching individuals how to develop and utilize coping skills, if I'm, sometimes putting them down, I can expect that
Right.
for children and individuals to use it when they want to and use it when they don't want to,
I respect
So
it as long as you do it consciously. I always say, like, just
yes,
know that you're doing it. Like, I know
right.
it. If I'm saying, listen, I'm going to eat this ice cream to cope, I'm consciously doing it. I know
Yes,
that exercising would give me the stress relief, but I
yes.
want the ice cream.
I want the ice cream. I
And
want the
I'm
sugar.
conscious of it, and and like just like the girl, I didn't want to use my breathing. I don't want to go to the gym. I want to eat my ice cream, and I know that I'm trying to cope with this emotion. So I'm clear about that, and I'm clear about what tool I'm using to cope with it, and I'm clear also that there may be a negative consequence. If I'm doing all of that, I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with you doing that.
I'll share more about this kid because this kid is like one of my success stories. And at one time,
Hmm.
I was like the behavior. So she arrived into a school setting, and but she had a lot of issues going on in the house, a lot of disruptions of her normal functioning in the home. Her
Hmm.
parents broke up; they were getting a divorce. And she came in very angry, very aggressive towards other classmates. She would be physically aggressive with them, sometimes hit them, kick them, bite them, all these types of things. And school was trying to be very supportive of the issue. We started off that way, but at the end of the school year, the testimony was that she utilized skills that she learned in counseling to where she wasn't being put out of class anymore, that she was able to look at her reward chart and earn things not just from the counselor but from her homeroom teacher, from other teachers, that
Hmm.
there were less outbursts. They were almost becoming really rare that she had improved her test scores, that her parents knew what her coping skills were supposed to be. So they were reminding her of her coping skills as well. So it was a collaborative effort. And that's why we had the dynamic change that we had by the end of the year, because both parents were on board, reminding her of her coping skills. Not perfectly, they weren't perfect, they're not the professionals, but they
Mhm.
we had a tool, we had a
Right.
reward chart that I shared with them, and they reinforced it. So even if we invest in the parents, I'm talking to you guys, even if we invest in it, let's be sure to reinforce some things. Let's be sure to be empathetic towards our children, compassionate, and not necessarily if you see something in a journal that, mama made me mad, whatever, you don't have to take that personal,
Mhm.
because let's not take it personally. It could very well sting. It could very well hurt. But if we react in a way that doesn't make the child comfortable with expressing him or herself,
Right.
then they're not going to do it, and they're not
Right.
going to get better. So I would encourage you with that as well, that I think a lot more children will be more prone to communicate with parents if we are more open-minded and take a step back and not necessarily take it personal, but allow them the expression, not disrespect, but to
Right.
express themselves openly and honestly, so that they can feel validated, affirmed. Um, Oftentimes, individuals don't always feel like it's okay to feel all their emotions, but I'm a
Mhm.
proponent that if God didn't want us to feel all of our emotions, He wouldn't have given it to us,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
So if He wanted us to smile all the time, we wouldn't have the ability to frown.
Right.
If He wanted us to be happy all the time, we wouldn't have the ability to be angry. I think God created us that way. And sometimes we recognize that we have multiple emotions, but we don't give our children the grace
Permission.
to do
Yes.
the same. So I think if we adopt some of those mindsets, we'll be better off, and we'll start seeing more improvement.
What I'm hearing you say basically is that as parents or adults in children's lives, if we model appropriate social and emotional well-being and give our that's going to free our children to be able to do the same. And
Yes,
if they don't have the tools, your book is a one place they could go and get those tools,
yes,
right?
yes,
And then the
yes,
school counselor is an excellent resource if your school is lucky enough to have them. That is a wonderful resource. And I'm using the word school counselor, but part of our conversation, whatever, or
yes.
the school social worker if they exist.
Right, right.
We're gonna say the school
Whoever is the
mental health
helping
professional.
professional.
The
Yes,
mental health professional at your school is also an excellent resource. So, Dr. Dominique, we could talk all day,
all day.
but I know you have a school, and I'm so grateful you took time out of your day. So, I want you to wrap us up with some takeaways, the things that in this conversation, we should not forget.
Takeaways. Okay, takeaways, y'all. I feel strongly that we're in a time of crisis. We are in a life or death situation. Everything that I mentioned regarding what the CDC, with the National Institute of Health, with the National Institute of Mental Health are publishing over the last few years, that's you can just Google it and find it. You can look up the statistics and the outpacing of African American youth over other ethnicities with suicidal behavior, suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, suicidal planning, suicidal attempts and completions.
Mhm.
That's information that you can find. My prayer and my petition towards you is that we start having open conversations, we start validating children's and individuals' feelings. We start being the safe places and get the help that we need. If we know that we're struggling, we get the help that we need, and we also get the children the resources
Mhm.
that they need. Because again, I've said it before, and this is what I see: we invest in a lot of things, but oftentimes we don't invest in the things that's going to last a lifetime.
Mhm.
When we invest in Johns, when we pay $200, that's a $200 investment. Y'all, this is a $40 investment for 16 weeks. It's a $40 investment, but you get a pre and post test. You'll be able to see, you get a webinar support. You'll get modules that you can tap into to learn about different emojis. It is an investment. And so we choose every day what we invest in. If we're going to invest in the Starbucks,
Mhm.
oh, we going $200 Jordans. Listen, that's an investment.
I'm gonna
So,
pause on yo. I'm gonna pause you only to say, when you gave us the price point, I'm not even gonna let you keep calling this an investment. That's common. You know, that's more than nails cost. That's more than a trip to my hair salon.
you know
That's
what, you're
that's
right.
more than my pet. That's so
It's
when
way less. You're
it's
right.
way less than most
It's
of the
way
things that I
less.
just do, just
Yeah.
living. I'm a foodie too, so I will sit at a table and my bill is gonna be three times that $40. That's food that I'm eating that's only lasting in my stomach 4 hours because I'm gonna eat again in 4 hours. I'm just being honest. So that's it. Because I think when we start hearing investment, then we start pricing ourselves out of it. Ooh, $40. That's less than my net. You know what I mean? When you put all my subscription services for the month, Netflix, Hulu, it not even $40 is not an investment at all. I want you to think of it as like it is an investment, but I want us to try to figure another word for it. And we'll talk about that off time.
Okay.
So that
Well, you
people
know what?
don't even think negative. It's that's nothing. It's you should start saying it's cheap. This is really because it's a life-saving measure.
You know what? I guess you're right. I did not think of it like that, but you're absolutely right. My hair costs more than that. The
Mhm.
shoes that, heck, I have a 2 year old, and the shoes sometimes that I have to put on his feet is $40 that he grows out of it in 2 months.
Right,
This is something that if we learn this over 16 weeks, they're going to take this throughout their life.
right.
So I'm glad you provided that perspective. And I look, iron sharpens iron, and we learn from one another. And so you're absolutely right that maybe I could use it is an investment, but it's not a costly investment.
It's not right. It's not cost
It ain't
prohibitive. We all have
costly.
40. We're not gonna talk about $40 because y'all know social media people.
I'm about
We
to say,
all know what that
I see you
$40.
about to
They're
go
gonna go
in.
down. All right. So how and you mentioned Amazon. Do they just look how do they find it?
Okay, so the name of my company is Renewed Minds Counseling and Wellness. Renewed Minds Counseling and Wellness.
Mhm.
You can look for the Emotional Awareness and Management Journal on Amazon. And you can look for the company Renewed Minds. We will be going live with this product sometime after Labor Day. So after Labor Day, you can find it on Amazon. I'm so excited because I just believe that if we start investing in the tools that last a lifetime, because we invest in the things like when we buy the Jordans, they're gonna wear it 6 months and maybe they can't fit it
Not
anymore.
even six
Sometimes
months.
not even that long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what's going to take them throughout the lifetime? What's going to make them feel safe? What's going to make them feel validated? What's going to make them feel heard? What's going to make them feel valued, affirmed? A
Right.
lot of the reasons why these individuals um, entertain suicidal ideations or plan their suicide or actually attempt their suicides because they don't feel loved, valued,
Right.
affirmed, accepted, acknowledged. So we have a tool that we can begin the process. Is this an absolute solution? For some, yes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And for others, this may just be the beginning. But we
The
gotta start
foundation.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta
Mm-hmm.
start somewhere. So I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
get
I'm just gonna say,
passionate
Dr.
about it. I
Dominique, I
see.
gotta have you back because there are so many conversations that we had that we
Yeah.
have to continue. And
Yes.
one, I want to see, after it launches, after it goes live, maybe if we can come back together in 16 weeks and
Yeah.
see who's completed the program and you can help us with more information because I love that it's again evidence-based. I love that you're following that person and they're able to see their growth and progress. So
Yes.
thank you so much for being here today. I
Thank
can't
you
wait
for
till you
having
get,
me.
I know the guests are gonna be calling me saying, when is Dr. Dominique coming back? And figure out how to say her last name, ma'am. And I'm gonna work on that, y'all. So next time she come, I promise y'all, I'm gonna have it right. I'm not trying it again today.
We're gonna
Not,
have to get flashcards.
yeah, I'm gonna get me a tool.